kind of wake up. All right, if you're gonna come out and do my chores with me, it just cooled down a little bit, and so now what we do is we've got even little concrete birds saying, "What the fuck? Come on, man! I need some water." So what we do is we follow the hose, and wherever we left off last time. Sorry for the video here. That's gonna suck for you probably. Whatever. Wherever we were last time with the hose is where we start this next time. Because that makes sense to me. And what's really going on here? Are you kidding me? That was already turned on. Okay, yeah, see? That's how that happens around here. And if you fuck up, it's just better to go ahead and run, Just do what you're gonna do. Alright, so now we have the ability to get a workout while we work out on the property. And it's like parkour running. Because, I don't know how well the video picks it up, but, you've really got to be an athlete. And all these plants, they're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." I don't know if you can hear them, but that's what they're saying. So I'm going to just I'm going to be busy for a while. But I'm just going to make this video as long as the camera has memory and battery. I'm going to share a few things with you that I think about, like when I'm doing this stuff. These are all given to me, these plants. I was like, hey, thank you. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. Because there's been a lot of other gifts I've been given that, well, they don't last, or they're only useful once or twice, or whatever. But I like to just kind of give everything a little bit of a drink. Anything that's alive and that is saying that it wants some water, it's going to get it. I like how when you're adding water, it just seems that everything comes to life. Almost like it's the foundation of life, right? Water is life. But when water is not treated appropriately, it becomes a taker of life. Like what, unfortunately for the families in Texas, they just experienced some pretty horrific natural disaster. But they've been doing cloud seeding for some time. And if you look it up, it is something to regulate the rain, right? And although it could be used, just beneficially, put out forest fires or water crops, sometimes it could be used maliciously, or even if it's by accident, but if there's gross negligence to an accidental misuse of technology like that, it can have some pretty catastrophic um, uh, results, right? And luckily there are things that we can be doing to combat, like flooding, right? So like what I show people here is a process called permaculture. And in permaculture, we shape the landscape so it can catch and absorb water like the beaver does. Because the beaver, they're pretty intelligent creature. They learn from the universe. I mean, so I think that's even better than from a university. But yeah, and the sagebrush, they don't even really need a drink, but they look nicer when they've gotten a drink. So I know that I look a lot nicer when I'm hydrated, right? I mean, God, I've I kind of live out here in the desert, and there's some days that I'm looking kind of ashy. You know, um, things are dried out. You know, and when things are all dried out, uh, that's when you're dehydrated, right? And just like these areas here, you can see that I've maybe caught some of these areas on fire um, earlier in the year, and of course when there wasn't a burn ban in place, right? But I mean, if you have an engineered landscape, even if a fire does happen, it can only go so far, right? Because I mean, like all these rock walls, they don't burn, right? And hydrated spaces don't burn um, very well either. So this is just like I got, I mean, like that. That's mint. That's a pepper plant. I don't know if it's going to actually do anything or not. But yeah, there's some other mint and some stuff in there. There's some mallow down there in the corner, in the bottom there. These little purple flowers. They taste pretty good. But yeah, so like an engineered landscape, yes, just like anything, it can catch on fire, or almost anything, it can catch on fire. Um, it's less likely to be as severe as what we've been experiencing, lately. Over the last really 20 or 30 years, it has gotten exponentially worse. Because they've. I mean, how many forest fires? Um, when there was a lot of loggers out in the mountains, there was a lot of forest fires that were put out by the loggers because it was better for them to fight the fire themselves than to call 911 and hope that somebody somewhere else will come in and do it for them. They've already got the equipment, they've already got the tools, they've already got strong dudes that are the strong dudes that are willing to get dirty, man. That's what it takes to fight fires. Um, and I'm not saying that women can't fulfill a role like that too, but I'm saying it takes strong people willing to do a lot of hard physical labor to fight forest fires. And also, I mean, there's an incentive, a financial incentive for them to just go ahead and take care of it for themselves because they're the ones working there, right? I mean, they're the ones that are, I mean, quarantine that area off. You can't go in there because we're nursing a forest fire, and everybody up here, we're working at a prevailing wage rate, so we're making a lot of money managing these fires. My only qualm with modern logging is where once an area has been harvested of trees of straight grain timber that was planted with the intention to harvest. I mean, because we're basically treating the forest like a farm, in which isn't necessarily a bad thing unless it has turned so much into a farm that the biodiversity is no longer present. I mean, we should have oaks growing, and um, we should have fruit trees of all kinds, growing, because I mean, that just makes sense. And I mean, like these things right here. I mean, it's called a sunchoke or a Jerusalem artichoke, and they grow pretty abundantly if they have good water, and they're like a root. So I guess they taste like artichoke. And anyway, there's a lot of things that could be growing in the forest if it was a little more hydrated. So my suggestion, because I don't like to just present a problem to an idea, or anybody can recognize a problem, right? And it's like the woke person who they're really, really worried about the problem, but yet they've not recognized a solution to it, and so they're freaking out, right? And I mean, I understand. I've I've been to the point before when I was like, oh my God, there's all this stuff happening, and what's the big deal? How do we solve it? But then you ask enough questions and you do enough searches on YouTube and Google and other search engines too, right? You don't just limit yourself to one outlet, just like you shouldn't limit yourself to one income. I mean, if you only have one source of income and it goes away, that can be pretty disastrous, right? But if you have many sources of income, then you can, um, I mean, it's easier to navigate the world when it all doesn't fall apart at once, right? So this is a compost tea generator, and what happens with that is it's just a bucket, right? And it holds water, then it holds all the weeds that I pick out of the gardens, right? And then, so whenever I come and fill this, I overfill it, and it spills out into the garden, and it's releasing nutrients into the soil. It's helping to uh, build all of the healthy bacterias and all of the things that make life thrive, right? And the little squirrels, they were out here playing earlier. When I went back to grab the phone, I picked up a little rabbit, a little cottontail, who ran around the corner and acted like he was hiding. Yeah, animals are funny. They think that if they're just perfectly still, their silhouette against the sunlight doesn't matter. Like what looks like a rabbit and smells like a rabbit might be a rabbit. So we got a lot of variety going on here, and a lot of weeds that kind of overgrow, but that helps to provide shade, right? And provides me with, I mean, it's like it's a giver of time. If I just let the weeds grow, I get more time in the day. So I get pretty tolerant of it, and when I lose my tolerance of it, I hack it all down and I put it in a bucket, and it makes fertilizer. And so instead of buying fertilizer from the grocery store or the hardware store or from the internet, I just make my own, right? Because that'd be silly to bundle up all the weeds and haul them to the landfill. Pay $10 to haul them to the landfill, and fuel and time, versus just putting them in a bucket of water and letting them decompose. And I mean, that makes sense to me. And when something makes sense to me, that's what I do, even if it's not popular. I mean, because there's a lot of stuff that I do that just isn't very popular with people. I mean, sometimes people actually hate on me. I mean, I'm like, wow. Imagine I'm just up here minding my own business, not pushing my will on anyone else, doing the best things I know to do, and yet you're offended. So let me get right back. Let me circle back. Isn't that the popular way of saying I forgot what I was talking about and got too far off course? So I was talking about the solutions to the logging and the forest fires. So logging a hillside across the hillside at the same elevation. So it would probably be a little bit more of a difficult process, but if we cleared out a section of um, trees that were planted intending to be harvested in 20 to 30 years or whatever, um, and we actually shape the landscape so that way it can spread water. And so any water that comes down in the wintertime can get locked into a terrace. And when it gets locked into a terrace, and we use a process called hugelkultur, so any of the debris that was in the forest, it gets placed as like a beaver dam. Well, when we do that, we start to reduce the flooding into low-lying areas when the snow is melting off. And because, when in the spring, when the snow starts melting off initially, we get a lot of water, right? And a lot of water runs past everything that it would better serve in the future to stick around by, right? And so when we hold water to the landscape where it falls as often as possible, and we direct it in a way that it doesn't cause erosion, which is possible when we do it in a way that makes sense. But right now we've got eroded landscapes that are being mismanaged, and it takes a lot of effort to when we are trying to manage something that has been improperly engineered. So my solution is to implement permaculture into the forest networks, and in doing that, we can also solve a homeless and unemployment problem by helping by having caretakers go to the forest and live in mobile shelters. Some people call it camping, some people call it a lifestyle, um, but it's doing it in a way that uh, if we've got food growing locally, the person doesn't really even have to come back to town very often, or there doesn't have to be much of a system in place to um, to make sure they have enough food, right? And if they have enough food and they like hanging out in the mountains and they're being a caretaker of the land, then we probably wouldn't have as many fires either, because all of the fuel from the forest floor would be getting consumed in nightly fires. Maybe not nightly fires in the summertime because you don't need them, but um, in the wintertime, that's the most efficient way to stay warm, right? Is with fire. And you can burn pine cones, and you can burn um, cow poop. you can burn wood, right? You can burn all sorts of things in the like a wood stove, right? And so we wouldn't have a dependency on propane, and we'd be saving fossil fuels by not running back and forth to town to buy all the food if it's just growing locally. And that also has a positive benefit for game, like wildlife populations. I hate to call it game. There's these people that make it a game to go out in the forest and and hunt everything down. You know, now I mean, if you're starving and you're coming into winter and you're lost and you're like, man, that deer looks like it's been saving up all the mushrooms and pine cone seeds and all the stuff that it's been eating. It's been turning it into steak, and he has a fur jacket that I could really use. And you sharpen a stick and you go get him, make what was his yours. That's one thing. But driving around in an air conditioned, uh, you know, love seat or lazy boy recliner, 4-wheel drive, and then rolling down the window so you can use your $6,000 rifle to shoot something a mile away or half a mile away. Come on now. I mean, that's just silly. That's just really crazy. But if there was a lot more food growing out in the forest, there'd be a lot more deer, and you probably wouldn't even have to shoot it at a half a mile away, because there'd be one right next to the road. You won't even have to uh, radio back to town to get your friends to help you drag his ass out of a canyon somewhere. All right. I mean, you just only shoot at the uphill things, right? Because then you can just use gravity to get it into your truck, into your freezer. So, but yeah. So I mean, what if there was more water available in the mountains? And people's argument to that has been, like, when I'm talking to the ecology department or anything like this, they say, "Oh well, if you get too much water retention in the mountains, you're going to develop mosquito problems everywhere." And I said, "What?" And they're serious about it. And I was like, "Well," I said, "Yeah," I said, "that I guess that's possible, but um, if you ever heard of these things called fish that live in the water, they eat the mosquitoes unless somebody takes all the fish away, right? I mean, if you got stagnated water with no fish in it, then maybe, yeah, that could become a problem." But and they say, well, most game fish require aerated water. They can't survive in what do they call it? Stagnant conditions. I said, all right, so use goldfish. I said, there's a 25-cent solution to your $1 million problem right there, huh? And they said, oh, but those can become invasive. I said, okay, then tell some kids that there's a competition about who can catch the most goldfish, and I guarantee you they will get rid of them goldfish with a quickness. I mean, you guys are presenting problems that really don't exist, except that government has created the problems, and then they're profiting off of these problems because they're going to get a pension if they put up with this and support this stuff for 20 years. They're going to have a pension for the rest of their life. Right? That's a good deal. All you got to do is sell your soul for that one. I worked for Uncle Sam for 9 years, and I realized that Uncle Sam is a fucking psychopath. Yeah. I mean, we were asked to go to other people's countries, right? We go to other people's countries to do things to people that we wouldn't want done to us or our family. Right? I'm like, wait a minute, where's the golden rule here? They're like, what? What kind of hippie bullshit is that? What are you talking about? I'm like, what are we really doing? And the answer was, that's above your pay grade. You don't need to know. It's on a need to know basis only, and you don't need to know. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the one being asked to do things that are in support of things that, who knows, maybe I wouldn't support. So, oh shit. Okay, still recording. Thought I lost you. Alright. So anyway, yeah, so that's a couple different kinds of lettuce there, and that's some rosemary, and there's another pepper plant hidden in there, and there's some amaranth right up in there. And that stuff makes a lot of seeds. The birds and everybody likes those. It's edible for people too. And then there's more of that mallow, and more the mallow, and more. Um, but yeah, so there's solutions that exist for all the problems that we're facing. I mean, like the homeless problems. I've talked with and worked with a lot of homeless folks, and those who have experienced a lot of chemical dependency. They're escaping their reality in the best way they know how. Because they're the kids that had a bunch of questions, and the parents just said, "Shut the fuck up." I'm tired of you asking so many questions. Things just are the way they are. Why won't you just be quiet? Why won't you just do what everybody else does? Why won't you just shut up? That's what I want you to do. I want you to shut up. And then these kids, they shut down, right? They do. I mean, some of them even go completely mute because they're like, whoa, I am amongst psychopaths, and I don't, they're fearful. They're fearful of their environment. And there's a whole bunch of people who, when I'm talking with them, you can just tell they're really timid. They are really, really timid. And they're very impressionable by anybody they view as authority. That's why it's important to make sure we know what's happening in our schools. If we're going to support public schools, they should be working to what the public wants, not pushing any kind of agendas or ideas onto kids. The first 7 years of a kid's life are very impressionable. And if you're a good mentor, their next 20 years is also a great way to shape who they are and how they are in the world. But we're not really hiring the mentors. We're hiring people who are obedient to teaching a curriculum established by an organization who claimed they wanted good workers, not thinkers. I want them responsible enough to not destroy the equipment and make a good profit, but not really smart enough to figure everything out. Figure out that not everybody is as kind and giving as they are of their time. Some are using to exploit other people so they can have anything they want in the world, right? Here's another bucket. So it's not horrible right now, but smell-o-vision would be something that people wouldn't sign up for this project, because when you start activating it again and you spill it out, it does stink for a little bit, but so does the application of these chemical fertilizers. And technically, it's all chemical, right? I mean, and it's all from Earth, but are we speeding up a natural process, or are we doing it in a way that is for profit? And my opinion is, if we're doing it for profit, there can be shortcuts made, or it's probably not as good, as. And then we just flood this whole area here. Well, because you got to pay $10 a gallon for it, or $20 a gallon for it, and it has a carbon footprint of having to be done by somebody somewhere else. So anytime we're taking something away from local, we're moving in towards control or inefficiency, right? And whenever there's inefficiency, it's going to cost a lot more. So most everybody that I talk with, they claim anyway that they would like to see efficiency and accountability and transparency and abundance and health and happiness and all of these things that I think most everybody can align with, people want. But yet, is that what we have? I mean, are we hired these public servants a long time ago, our forefathers did, to take care of the problems in our society that we don't want to be burdened with. But the problems have gotten bigger. And then it costs a lot more money to solve these problems because they need a raise, right? I mean, the way the value of the dollar is moving, people need to you need to make more money just to buy the same things, right? So is it that the things are more valuable, or is it that the dollar has lost its value? When we look at how it's just a piece of paper, I mean, really, it's a promissory note. I mean, it doesn't even work good for wiping the butt. Not that I've tried, but I can only imagine. But what I realized is it's a handy tool while people believe in it. But if anybody ever stops believing in it, well, if everyone stops believing in it, then it's worth nothing. Just like what's happened to different currencies around the world. When it's only backed up by the value or the the promise or the trust in government, we should not try to hold on to too many of those. Anyways, yeah. So this is what my evenings are like. I go around and make sure everything has water. These are new seeds that I put in the ground. They haven't yet popped up yet. It's a bunch of sunflowers and some corn. So, but okay. So the people that I've worked with, let's get back on that pathway. The people I work with and I have worked with that have experienced dependency issues or and it usually accompanied homelessness, because if you're not taking care of you and you're reliant on other people all of the time for everything that you're doing because of your choices that you're making, people eventually they kick you out. I mean, they can only handle so much, and it's already a tough enough job for them to be them, but then for them to be trying to handle somebody else too, that's putting a lot on anybody, right? But I was talking to a gentleman just the other day, and he says, "Okay, well, I mean, but why is it that these people don't want to go provide for themselves?" I said, "Is it that they don't want to?" Or I said, I'm assuming that you're about 65 years old, and the price of a home, like for you as a 20-year-old to buy a home, you could have had one job and you'd be able to buy a newer vehicle and at least a used home, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, it takes almost 3 jobs to do that now, right? And I said, and there's a lot more taxes, and there's a lot more fees and fines and registration and permission stickers and and then the cost of living is just higher too. So I said, that's one of the reasons is people are frustrated. You know, they they work their ass off. They pay an apartment landlord, you know, for 4 or 5 years living in an apartment. But then because their employer wants to hire their brother instead of maintaining your employment, you know, maybe you end up without a job for a little bit. And if you don't have enough money saved up to pay your rent, then the manager, the landlord, they kick you out, right? So then you become homeless. And if you didn't have anywhere to put your things, then you lose your possessions too, right? And then if you're on the streets and you have possessions in a tent, every so often, and you don't know when it's going to be, but the police come through and they'll throw it all away. They'll push you along to a new spot. But that's not really solving the problem. I mean, you know, sometimes people, I mean, there's a whole hobby based on the idea that people like to live in tents, and people in the past and still in other places on the planet live in tents. And so it's almost like we're trying to push people into apartments or expensive housing as the only option in how to live, because currently, if you try to live in the forest for more than 2 weeks, the Forest Service cops will come by and tell you you need to move on. You know, if you're in town, you know, the city police are the ones that are telling you you need to move on. But as soon as you go out in the forest, then the Forest Service cops or the BLM cops are telling you that you need to move on. But where do you move to? How far do you move? How reasonable is it to pack up everything that you've got, even if you're not? I mean, now if you're destroying an area, I can see that, you know, we need to hold a person accountable when they're not being responsible, right? But there should also be ways that we can be using resources in a good way, right? Because I mean, like right now, basically they're try to recycle any items up in the forest or anywhere near a forest. You got to go to a major city center to recycle anything or to even do anything like that, right? Whereas these are all valuable resources that, um, if communities were mobile or like caretaker communities in the forest, then these are resources that can be used. You know, I mean, a tin can. What kind of trash is a tin can? Millions and millions of pounds per year of tin cans just being thrown away. While somebody else is going over to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and buying tin siding that just looks a little bit different, right? And I've seen people use tin cans as their siding, and it was pretty awesome. I mean, it was like, wow, that was a great reuse of that resource. And you know, the person's just behind a big smile because they're like, yeah, I know. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't we be doing things like this? And it's like, well, because if you try to build a house that's permitted, um, the it requires all of your resources to be, you know, like new. You know, so you have to go buy all new stuff to build a permitted house. But then that permitted house is only built to a minimum standard, right? I mean, why build something to a minimum standard that's expensive, made out of matchsticks and petroleum, that burns up easily? You know, I mean, God, don't. I mean, if the neighbor's kid has got fireworks, you better keep a handle on him. You know, because what if they shoot a firework and it comes into your yard and it combusts your landscape and your home, right? Because houses catch on fire pretty easy nowadays. I was online arguing with idiots. One of them was a union representative for the local fire department. And he was telling me how stupid I am for not wanting to support their $1.2 million budget for a expansion project. And he said, you know how important it is to be able to have a 4-minute response time instead of an 8-minute response time? I said, well, I know that sounds nice, but last time there was a fire up on my hill, it took you guys 20 minutes to get here. He's like, well, that's because you're not in the city. This is the reason we need expansion projects. And I said, no. I said, if you actually cared about human well-being and making so where fires are not such a problem for housing, right? To such a devastating impact on our society, you'd be lobbying for hempcrete and aircrete and alternative building methods that don't really add much cost to the home, if at all, but yet offers huge safety and insulation value. And so, like over the years, it would actually be a much more efficient house that doesn't cost as much to heat or cool, right? And um, so, yeah, after I suggested that he actually lobby towards safer housing, he deleted his whole argument. Because I wish I would have got a screenshot of it. Because when logic causes somebody to just disconnect from an argument, you know that you've won. And I mean, and it's not that these are my ideas. I mean, these are ideas that I've come to by listening to a lot of smart people. I mean, I'm not claiming to be the sharpest pencil in any box, but I have had some time to pay attention. And instead of paying tuition, I just paid attention to the smartest people that I can find on every topic that I'm interested in. And then when we do that, and you can tell pretty quickly if somebody's just full of crap. I mean, you watch the video and you watch 6 other people, and um, and the comments section is usually pretty on topic. I mean, they kind of know what's going on usually. I mean, there's idiots everywhere, but um, when you look at the big picture of things. All right, that's as far as the hose reaches this way. So we use the thumb over the nozzle trick to get out there a little bit further. Yeah, so what other problems are we gonna? Oh, let's talk about drug dependency. I mean, a lot of times it started because a person ends up homeless, right? Um, well, sometimes it's already a contributing factor. Sometimes it's something that they think they can handle until that day happens. The door falls, or the floor falls out on them. And they don't function anymore. And when that happens for each person, it is probably a authentic experience. But why is a person choosing to choose something that other people are dying from, right? Why do they choose that? And if you are experiencing your life in a way, let's go over here and watch the sunset for a minute, because those areas right there, that can fill up with water, and it's got channels built into it, so it directs it around. So makes it to where I can actually go do other things while I'm. Let's go this way. This little tree was just a seed a few years ago. And I stuck it in the ground on the side of a hillside and gave it some water, and it started growing. But yeah, so why do people choose to basically kill themselves slowly? And this is, I guess, just what I've come to is they're escaping their now moment. they're not happy or content in what's happening in their life, like right now. And so they desperately desire an escape from that. And sometimes it's the thoughts that run through our head, or the people that we live around, or financial situations or legal situations. And there's a lot of frustrating things about life, and people are choosing to check out. Well, sometimes they keep checking out so often that it just becomes like a fast pass, and they check out a little bit too much, and they check out for good. And then everybody that's left behind is saddened by uh, their loss of life. But what if? What if you can experience a life that you want to wake up to every day? If you want to be present in what you're doing and creating, is there's no desire to escape it? I'm like for me, I stopped focusing on me and my I just stopped focusing on me. I started focusing on what can I do to help. What I mean, like if what are the biggest problems in the world, and what can we do to solve that? I mean, because there's a whole lot of people, they're in stress and struggle just to exist. So once I let go of all of the things that I was working for myself, life became very efficient. Very efficient. It doesn't cost me much to live. And so because it doesn't cost me much to live, I feel that I am at a benefit, or I'm in a position that I need to spend my time to help others find what I'm experiencing now. And there's a lot of people who don't want to live out in the middle of the desert on cheap land. They want bigger. But that's the thing, is it's okay to want bigger. It's okay to want whatever you want. But getting it efficiently, and being happy with what you're doing in your now moments, makes it to where you don't need to escape them. Because I mean, everybody's life is going to look different. Their perfect little dream world. I mean, mine is an apocalyptic ashram, right? I mean, mine has some chaos. It has some areas that are real nice, that I've put the intention to, and I've polished those pixels in a way that I've taken trash and turned it into treasure. I've taken my life and my health into my control. I've taken my happiness and my peace into my control. It doesn't have to be peaceful or happy in my surroundings for me to feel good. That's just what I'm able to find now. And the way I do that is I teach people how to, I introduce people. I'm helping them remember what it is to be meditative. Because when we were a child, we naturally were calm until stress or whatever came into our experience. And then we started breathing in an upper diaphragm, and some people have never stopped. And if we breathe in upper diaphragm breathing, then that's where stress and depression and anxiety and all of these emotions that are like tearing us down, that's where a person is breathing while you're experiencing that emotion, right? And then I've talked to several people, and they admit to me that they don't even breathe. I mean, it's very rare that they're breathing. They just basically have their mouth open, and whatever oxygen they're able to get through that exchange is sufficient to sustain life. Right? But I'm like, if you actually breathe in deep and often, you'll be smarter, because more oxygen is getting to your brain. And And it works. People start making better choices. And when people start having a better diet and they're not in stress and struggle and fear, then they have an opportunity to bloom. But that's the thing, is that like the people that are experiencing homelessness right now, because they don't have a space to exist where they feel secure and they can um, gather up, they can have it's really it's hard to get a job if you're homeless, right? Because you need to have access to showers and you need to have access to a secure place to store your stuff, or because all the homeless people are in competition with each other, right? With all this stuff being thrown away in landfills, people are competing by stealing from each other on the streets, right? Isn't that nuts? We got so much stuff going to landfill. They could house people, they could clothe them, the compost could be creating healthy soil. The the gross mismanagement of our waste resources is is contributing to the problems that we're facing in the world. I mean, it's it's really sad that we have allowed corporations to write laws and put into effect a normal way of being that wastes so much to keep us buying so much. I mean, most of the things that I have here, I've picked up from the free section on Craigslist or Marketplace, or I'm cleaning out somebody's property for them because they're like, oh, I'm tired of all this stuff my grandpa left, or the people that didn't did, they were collecting all this stuff. Oh, but I show up, I'm like, oh wow, this looks like gold to me. But that's the difference of being a creator or a consumer. If a person only consumes things once it's no longer useful for what it was bought for, then it becomes trash. But around here, it becomes a lot of different things. But out here, it's peaceful and it's calm. And this is how I've shifted my life into peace and calmness, because now I know what it feels like. My whole life, I grew up in the mountains, and so I had a bit of this when I was little. But then I went in the military and lived in some bigger cities, Albuquerque and Colorado Springs, and then Yakima. And I haven't actually lived in Yakima. I just go visit there. But it's out here, it's very peaceful and calm. Whereas in the city, you're always hearing sirens, and there's always something going on. There's always people around. There's a lot of crime. And don't get me wrong. I mean, cities are great for um, going to get your favorite foods, or going in and experiencing entertainment, or gathering with a bunch of people, and everybody trying to eat in one place, right? But living in the city has become the normal, but it's not very natural. And so you got people living on sidewalks instead of out in the hills. The resources are only available in town because the areas out here, it's too dry. You can't grow anything on a hillside like that, right? But a hillside like that, if you dug holes in the side of it, you could build like really cool little houses. And then even if a person is carrying their water to do their bathing and drinking and stuff, that water could be used in a gray water system to have a little garden right next to your house. And if you put a little greenhouse over it, you can grow it almost year round. So, luckily there's solutions to these problems that we face. It's just that they're not popular yet. But a lot of people that come out here, and I get them aligned with what peace and calm feels like. They're able to get off drugs. And I mean, I'm talking getting people off of methamphetamines and fentanyl, these things that are taking so many people out of the equation that it should be listed as a pandemic or an epidemic or something that we need to direct some attention to. See this tree here, it's got a bunch of fruit on it. Peaches. Here in a couple weeks, hopefully I'll have birds are eating some of them already. I'm like, come on guys, let's save some for me, alright? And I could throw a shade cloth or something over it and protect it and make it all mine. Mine. But I think what they're telling me is I need to plant more trees. So, and I agree. So anyway, well, I've talked like almost an hour, and I can't believe that this thing has that much memory already, or still. So anyway, if you like what I'm doing up here, if you like the content that I'm sharing, share it with your friends. Consider subscribing or watch another video. I'm not. This channel is not monetized at this time, and I don't plan on monetizing it because I think that that's when you are censored and regulated in what you can say and what you can really do. There's a whole bunch of people that are in fear of what they say, but there's only been a couple times that like a warning label has been added to my content, and it was when I was talking about that S word of like unaliving, and so. But I think that's about the only word that they have like a warning about, and they have a warning about it because we all should know deep in our being that is a problem. I mean, I know several people who have done that, and most everybody I've talked with knows somebody who has done that to themselves, and that's really sad. I mean, when I was a kid, one of my classmates' dad had done that to himself, and talk about a devastated child, right? That is, I feel it's a selfish way out because you're passing your pain on to others. But I also understand that sometimes if a person doesn't know how to manage their pain, that they feel that that's the only solution. But so that's what I introduce people to here, though, is heavily meditated, and in just a few seconds, you can feel calm and peaceful, and the way you want to be. So if you're, I'm gonna prove it right now. It usually takes a half an hour, but I'm gonna give it a super short guided lesson in this. But just to make my point here, if you are feeling less than how you want to be, I'd like you to breathe in through your nose, filling up your lower diaphragm first, and filling into your chest, all holding it all just for a moment, and then effortlessly releasing through your mouth, slowly and deeply. 3 nice and deep breaths. Scan your body, your limbs and your face and your cheeks, your fingers, your forearms, shoulders, everything. Scan your whole body and relax it. Don't do this while you're driving. If you're driving, do this later. But take a nice deep breath in, breathing in deeply, and exhaling completely. And right now is the only thing that you can control about you. How do you want it to be? For me, I choose health, happiness, peace, and abundance in as many now moments as I can be aware of. And so if I'm making my choices based in the now moment on what I want to create in my life, because I'm the boss of me, right? How often do I want to do that? And when somebody comes by and knocks me off of that way that I want to be, how long do I allow them to knock me off of that? Well, if you're aware of your breath, the moment after you get knocked off of your pedestal, and if you're aware of your breath, it only happens for one breath. You say, "Oh, okay, I can't control that." But what I can control is me, and I can control who I am willing to allow in my life and who is welcome within my boundaries. And sometimes people lose that privilege. Because no one has a right to be in your space, in your life, in your world. It's a privilege that you give to those who you feel are loving and respecting you. Breathing in deeply, exhaling completely. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable, or just setting your gaze on one little spot on the screen. Breathing in deeply, exhaling completely. Setting your posture with your chin parallel to the ground. Straightening your spine, pulling your shoulders gently back. Resting your palms on your thighs. Breathing in deeply. Exhaling completely. And just like that, we can feel calm and peaceful. And when you're consciously aware of your breath, consciously breathing into your lower diaphragm, a belly breath, then your decisions in all of your now moments are no longer going to be compulsively made to align with what you've done in the past or what you've experienced in the past. It becomes, what's best for me right now? And it might be different than what it was in the past. For me, when I'm offered alcohol or drugs I take a deep breath in. I ask myself, is this something that I want in my life? And the answer is no. And it's been no for over 15 years now. And I like how my life has become because of the different choices that I've been making. And heavily meditated, it's a free program, right? Because you don't even need me to do it for you. You can replay this, or you can just remember the pathway of focusing on your breath, relaxing your body, letting go of what happened yesterday, and not worrying about what might happen tomorrow, because those things are beyond your control. But you can focus on you right now, and how do you want to be? And I don't own a patent on the health, happiness, peace, and abundance, but it's a pretty popular choice for many folks. They said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, I can handle that. That's better than needing to escape it, for sure. But stress is the opposite of ease. And when we're in ease, we feel good, right? When you're in ease, you don't really want to escape that. When you're in ease, everything is desirable. It's comfortable. It's a good place to be. But when you're in stress, that means that you're in dis-ease. And in dis-ease, that affects our mind, right? And in dis-ease, if it affects our mind in a way that we can't handle it, then we look to distractions to get rid of what's happening in our mind, right? We either use entertainment or food or drugs, alcohol, social media. We're looking for a dopamine hit because we're not feeling it. We're not feeling good right now. And if we're not feeling good because we're in dis-ease of the mind for a long time, then it works to manifest as disease of the body in various ways, either in our liver or lymphatic tissues or what a myriad of things, right? There's all sorts of diseases. There's like libraries full of them. Some of them I think have even been invented, and then they didn't even exist until they were invented. Who knows? That's just for entertainment purposes only, for the AI bots that patrol this stuff. How is it that a robot now asks us to verify that we're human or that we're a person? Right? They give us little tests online. I think it's kind of funny. But anyway, yeah. So that's what my evenings look like, and that's the stuff that runs through my mind. So yeah. Anyway, if you like the channel, if you like what I do, hit me up with a subscription or share or comment. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where you think that we can go with this information that we just shared. Because I'm all in for a revolution, right? I'm in for it. It's time, right? I mean, we have people, somebody somewhere else telling us what to do and how to do and live our life. But it's not working. It's not working for efficiency or accountability or transparency. I have not felt represented yet by anybody in government, and I've been here 51 years. Even as a kid, I knew this whole system was BS. It's a belief system. It's a belief in authority of somebody somewhere else. But if authority exists, so does slavery. You gotta think about that one, right? If somebody somewhere else can tell you what to do with your time when you haven't harmed no one, we're not equal. And if we're not equal, who has determined that, right? And why have we become complacent to people who aren't efficient and the smartest of the, I mean, really, we should have the smartest of the tribe up there representing, right? But if you've taken a look at what we have up front and representing, they're just a bunch of people wearing collars and ties that have been compromised by the dollar and the deeds.